What is up, everybody? My name is James D. Fiore, and this is Blackballed. Okay, let's get something straight here. There's something fishy going on in Alberta, and I don't think anyone's talking about it in the way that they should. If you recall the podcast from last week, I featured Athena Mentzelopoulos and her checkered history as a person who was really no stranger to controversy. And by the way, for those who don't know, Athena Mentzelopoulos is the Alberta Health Services for wrongful dismissal. But there are other roles that this woman has played, and I'm not just talking about in the past where she got her husband a $160,000 untendered job when she worked for Christy Clark after being Christy Clark's bridesmaid. I'm not talking about the golden parachutes that she received, and that was, I believe, after she had unceremoniously sort of dragged through the mud 8 researchers from, I think it was BC Health Services. She was a main consultant, I think, of Christy Clark back then as well. But also the unfortunate suicide that took place, and the coroner's report directly relating it to Athena Mentzelopoulos. But there are other things that have developed and it's funny because I started using AI like Grok as a way to like see if I just wanted to experiment with this with the Grok 4. It's actually pretty good. I know a lot of people have a hate on for Elon Musk, but it's actually not bad. I asked Grok when it came to Carrie Tate and the Globe and Mail's reporting about the MHCare scandal, who is most likely to be Carrie Tate's main source? And it spat out like 800 words as to why Athena Mentzelopoulos was Carrie Tate's main source. I think that matters for several reasons. And we're going to cover that. We're also going to cover the PC Alberta Party and how that ties in, and also the Plymouth Brethren Christian Church and how they tie in. It's all kind of a cesspool. It's all kind of incestuous. And here to help us unpack it is none other than the political dark arts specialist. His name is David Wallace. David, how are you, buddy?
I'm wonderful. I'm inside, so I don't melt. It's a little bit warm these days.
Yeah, it's kind of nasty out there. I know you saw the other podcast that I did with Athena. I've been seeing the work that you've been doing as well. What is it that people are not understanding about why you and I seem to be so hellbent on criticizing the reporting that's taking place in Alberta, specifically by the Globe and Mail and Carrie Tate and Nathan Pike from The Breakdown? What people have been saying that we're on the payroll for the UCP and all this kind of stuff. What is it that regular people are kind of like missing when it comes to this reporting, and why do they find it so hard to believe that there is something fishy going on in the most, and I'll say it, little tiny aside, there was a famous Maclean's cover, I think it was in the early 2000s, where the cover of Maclean's basically said Quebec, the most corrupt province. I think Alberta wears that crown, and I think they have for at least a decade now. So tell me what you think it is that people are missing. Why do they find it so hard to believe that there's something going on in Alberta? And what is it about our culture that makes it seem like, that makes people say, oh, you're in the tank for the UCP, which I used to describe as the insane clown posse when Jason Kenney was at the helm?
I personally preferred the United Criminal Predators Party, but,
that's not bad. That's not bad.
Well, look, I think we have to start out with the understanding Albertans, the vast majority, feel that they've gotten a raw deal in this setup, in this federation. And if we're going to be completely honest, they have in many respects. Alberta is a major economic engine, and I know people will say, you add it up, it's not that I get all that, but Alberta they've got legitimate gripes on the way that they have been treated. We need to get that on the table first, to be fair. But the wagons tend to be circled whenever there is a scandal, which is, I think, one of the major reasons why this story hasn't been picked up nationally. And I can understand the confusion from Nate Pike's followers. Listen, I've spoken with Nate. I spoke with Nate when this thing began, and I like Nate. And when I first started reading his reporting, I mean, it was some pretty compelling stuff, and he certainly had me as a believer. But then I got a phone call last summer, and during that phone call, somebody wanted me to look into some things. And the more I looked, the more I saw that this story is more about personal motivations, be they coming with good intentions or not, and people's belief that a story such as this scandal could topple a government for own gain. So we have a lot of conflicting and converging motivations, which unfortunately now give the impression that these people are working together, and in a very real sense, they are.
I know what it's like to, and I think we've talked about this a few times. I'll just refresh for those who don't remember. There's a liberal lawyer that you and I both know, and that years ago I contacted, and there was some stuff going on, and he wanted information about something, and I wanted information from him, and it was like this, this exchange of ideas, whatever you want to call it. But then he let me in on a little secret, because I was busting his balls about how the Toronto Star was always in the tank for I think it was Kathleen Wynne that was leading the province at the time. It was like a year before she was ousted, and he said to me something that I'll never, ever forget. He said, because you kind of know that this happens behind the scenes, but you don't really think about it when you're reading articles, right? And if you're not in the media bubble or the Ottawa bubble or whatever, you're not really paying attention to this kind of stuff. But he says to me, he's like, I've had a writer at the Toronto Star, and I've been their source, like his source, for years and years now. And he doesn't want to lose me as a source. So when I give him information, I not only tell him when to put it out, I tell him what adverbs to use, right? In the lead, so that it will inflict not only the timing, but the way that's described will inflict maximum damage to whoever that story is about or their political enemies. When you look at
Absolutely
the Globe, when you look at the Globe and Mail's reporting, and specifically Carrie Tate's reporting, it just seems to me that there are really big telltale signs that she's not just reporting, but she is part of like a clique, which includes Athena Mentzelopoulos, which appears allegedly to sort of include Alan Holman, who's a big political operative guy out in Alberta, and tell us why that's damaging to the electorate in Alberta, because I want to pivot soon into who's behind it other than those people and what the actual motivation is.
Well, on the surface of this, Nate's reporting, Carrie's reporting, it looks like a good thing is being done. Dirty business between a vendor and a government is being exposed on the surface. But when you look not very far under the surface, you will see that ecosystem you spoke of. And like I said, we've been at this since last summer. So there'll be plenty of film at 11, so to speak, to establish our claims down this road. But Carrie Tate has spoken to a lot of people, such as Mr. David Parker, such as Hansford the cat, Vesna, allegedly, Marco, many, many people. And these strange bedfellows all have differing goals. Alan Holman's goal is to flip the government out of their chair and assist Mr. Guthrie, in my belief, in really establishing a foothold for this new PC Alberta Party. And ultimately, I believe the final move in that puzzle for Mr. Alan Holman is to help install Pierre Poilievre once he's blown out the door on the federal level, and to propel him to the premiership in Alberta. That's what I believe this is about. And I have more than a few reasons and little clues that have been left, which will clearly establish as we go along.
Yeah, so that was another thing is the whole MHCare angle of all this, and how people are so quick to be like, why are you trying to protect something that's going to usher in privatized medicine? And really, I don't care if MHCare was like, a coal miner a medical supplies company, or a tire company. To me, it doesn't matter, because what I ended up seeing was that company specifically. I've never seen a spotlight on a vendor more than the government before.
No, it's ridiculous. It's crazy.
If you look at the Ford stuff with the Greenbelt scandal in Ontario, now, albeit the significant difference would be is that the Greenbelt was eventually scrapped, but even before that, it was going on for over a year and a half. Nobody was sitting there talking about the developers. But in this particular case, everybody and their mom was talking about MHCare, and I was just like, well, what's going on here? The government is in control of who gets the contracts. It's not,
absolutely,
the vendor isn't like holding guns to anyone's head. They're not even really holding hockey tickets to anyone's head, because as we realized later, people like Guthrie were actually begging for hockey tickets at one point. Like there's a weird relationship that happens where government officials almost become entitled, at least party members or MPs or MPPs in this case, or MLAs, were become entitled. So it's like, oh, you got a contract? Oh, how about you slither over some hockey tickets for me, my wife, and my kids? Like that kind of stuff. But why do you think the focus was put on the vendor in this case, and not so much because it actually relates to the PC Alberta announcement that they're going to be a party to be reckoned with in the next election, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. I mean, to answer that question, they were chosen for two reasons. The first reason was because they believed it was a ready-made scandal whose optics would topple the government, or at least go a long way towards that. And the second reason is business. Prior to MH Medical Care establishing a foothold with Danielle Smith, they received a lot of these contracts under the Kenney administration. And those contracts were given because they could procure the goods where other suppliers had not been able to. Prior to that, Alan Holman and his son Chad were intimately tied with Tyler Shandro, who was the health minister. So it was a very open door, which allowed business from vendors that were affiliated with Mr. Holman to have first crack at these contracts. That business was lost, and that business totals hundreds of millions of dollars. So, number one, the optics of a Muslim man who they can paint as, well, from the last I heard, when they went to Lebanon, they're trying to say there's something untowards about this man's rise or where he got his money. I don't know what they're suggesting, but all signs lead to me like they're trying to use his race, his nationality, his religion as flashpoints for the general public. And it's working. It really is, because the difference between the Ontario situation and this situation is, one, you have a group of Italian-Canadian businessmen, we'll call them businessmen, who are very well established, who put Doug Ford in that position.
David. Easy on the Italians. Okay?
I'm just saying, businessmen.
Please continue.
That allegedly were involved in some untoward business with carving up the green belt, but you don't hear that mentioned. The focus is rightly on the Ford criminal government.
Yeah.
Whereas if you want to pound away at the UCP, go all you want, pound away. It should be in the government's lap. And the government, from the filings that I've been reading, they seem to be pretty confident that once all of this is out on the table, that they'll be exonerated. So I say, let the public see everything. I'll give you a case in point. Reporting. The story broke about Marshall Smith, the former chief of staff for the Premier of Alberta, a story that he was shacked up with two young male staffers. And somehow the focus, the impression given was that he had abused the power of his position to gain whatever he was gaining from the company of these young men. Not once in those articles, and they knew this, but not once did they mention that Marshall Smith was already living with these two men as roommates prior to being the chief of staff for the Premier of Alberta.
Yeah.
That might have put a little bit different spin on the story.
Oh, that little detail? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
That's nothing. Yeah.
Yeah, it might have been pertinent to put that in.
But and the context is so important. It's so important too, because so COVID saw many companies all across the province and all across the world get contracts for PPE equipment, for other medical supplies and things like that. I didn't see one story except from us, and it was in a podcast format, about the other company in Alberta that was getting, and in Canada, in any province that was led by a conservative, that were receiving fat untendered contracts. And that was from the Plymouth Brethren Christian Church. The companies that were owned by them, the companies that were like,
absolutely. And Mr. Alan Hallman was acting as a go-between between myself and the Plymouth Brethren Christian Church.
correct.
I
So when
invoiced
people's
him $5,000 every month as a retainer from those individuals.
So when people really people just don't really understand the story. I think that's all it is. And it's mostly because most mainstream outlets who were afraid to report on the Plymouth Brethren Christian Church before are still afraid. Part of it has to do with who their counsel either is or at least was. I'm not sure if Gerald Chapur, who was the former chief attorney for the Right Honorable Stephen Harper, and also for the Conservative Party of Canada back in the day.
The albino king of cat piss.
I did not know that was his nickname. But but they were afraid to report on him back then, mostly because Gerald Chapur is a powerful lawyer, right? So it's difficult, at least allegedly, or at least that's my speculation. Okay, so because I got to figure out a way how to word this so people finally take away what I'm trying to say here. The Plymouth Brethren Christian Church, if you've ever watched my show, I've had like 40 some odd survivors from that cult on my show, talking about the abuse that they received at the hands of the elders, of the people that own these companies. And these companies are not owned by unconnected individuals. They are literally owned by an umbrella group called the UBT, which is owned by the Plymouth Brethren Christian Church. All of these companies and all of these people within these companies pay a tithing to Bruce Hales in Australia. So so it was just after the Me Too era, right? Or right around the edge of the end of the Me Too era, where you have all these companies and no one would frame it properly. It's like, I wanted one reporter to stand up and to ask Jason Kenney or ask, I guess, Doug Ford or wherever these contracts were taking place. Do you support funding untendered contracts to a company who has literally hundreds of examples of systematic oppression against women and abuse of children, including sexual abuse, where they cover up their crimes before they go to work at these companies that they own that you give untendered contracts to? And nobody would lift a finger in that kind of reporting. But for MHCare Medical, and this is where I start laughing, and this is where people are like, oh, you're in the tank for Sam Marish and MHCare Medical. You got to contrast these two types of companies. One company protects pedophiles, allegedly, but do we have to say allegedly anymore? I've had dozens of them on my show telling their story after filing police reports and providing evidence and having witnesses that came on the show to say, yes, this elder abused this person and then told me to stop. But MHCare Medical, they don't have dirt, but they have interviewed 200 people in the Lebanese community in Edmonton. They have traveled across the world to Lebanon to try to find dirt, asking completely unrelated questions. Why so much heavy lifting? Just reiterate, even if you feel redundant, why so much heavy lifting on Sam Marish and MHCare Medical when there isn't any shady history, but no heavy lifting with the cult that owns the companies that have legendary and awful, horrific stories of abuse in a systematic nature?
Well, okay. Well, listen, you spoke of Gerald Chapur. You spoke of the Plymouth Brethren. There's nothing alleged. If they want to sue me, you know what, Hales, you fat fuck. You know my name. You know my number. Sue me. I'm looking forward to it this time. You're a thief. You're a cult. And you're a sick man. And you've abused children. Your cult has abused children, including people that you've interviewed on your show, like Cheryl Hope. Okay, I heard what you did to her. I saw the shit that you did to her. You're a sick group of individuals, and that group of individuals hold sway over people like Gerald Chapur. Okay, there are plenty of publications that people can read out there all about the church and these cults and these right-wing nut jobs like Gerald Chapur and the Seventh-day Adventist Plymouth Brethren. This guy is a very dark figure, and he happens to be business partners and good personal friends with Alan Hallman. Now, The reason this story has gotten no shift in Alberta, no truth been told, because nobody wants it to be told. And believe it or not, and most people will say, oh, well, it's crazy. People like David Parker, Take Back Alberta, Gerald Chapor, amazing, but they might be racist.
What?
And a guy who happens to be a guy who happens to be a Muslim, who they say came out of nowhere, has to be guilty.
You know, I was careful with this the first time that you said that, because I'm the type of person that I want to see irrefutable evidence or whatever. But the circumstantial evidence, when you look at the contrast, because that's what I started to do. I was getting tired of my own kind of carefulness, you know, like when looking and examining the difference between how Carrie Tate and the Globe are covering MHCare Medical versus how anybody was basically not covering the Plymouth Brethren owned companies. And really, deductive reasoning will tell you there is only a couple of differences. One of them is the heinous difference of abusing children, which happened on one side, the Plymouth Brethren side, but not the other side, the MHCare side. But the other part is, I know for a fact that out of all these people that I've interviewed 2 black members of the Plymouth Brethren Christian Church, and I've spoken to one other. And they are absolutely a racist organization. They're completely homophobic as well, right? Like they chemically castrate gay people.
Yep.
So I can't tell if they're motivated by money, the Alan Holmans of the world, and and his son, and whoever makes these decisions to like offer these tendered contracts to a dark, disgusting organization like that and all their little companies. But racism, it could play a role. I mean, it's all about money really at the end of the day, but they have the stomach or the, you know, the nastiness embedded inside them and their culture to use race as a trigger point, right? To make it seem like,
absolutely, they do.
Like they have the entitlement of these white Christian companies that want to do business with their white Christian premier, who at the time again was Jason Kenney. So, you know, I don't know how to get mainstream outlets to start following this, but it is bizarre to me that no one from the CBC has done a story about the Plymouth Brethren. No one from the Globe, who I used to think was a progressive paper, at least in their editorial style, maybe not their endorsements during elections, but in the way that they cover stories. I don't understand what's going on anymore. And you know what's funny is because the Jeffrey Epstein stuff is in the news right now. And this common thread of protecting child sex predators and pedophiles and shielding powerful people from responsibility because their companies happen to, like, you know, be worth hundreds of millions of dollars. The Plymouth Brethren Christian Church, an organization as heinous as that, received like between $4 and $5 billion worldwide in just in PPE contracts. And most of their companies had no experience at all with personal physical equipment. Is that what PPE stands for? Whatever it is. No one had.
Sort of like Artigoli and sort of like the some of these other guys that Holman digs up, like Artigoli and Equity Health Services. You know, they no experience necessary when you got the right connections and the right complexion, right, Alan?
Yeah. So they just
and I've worked for these people before. I can tell you they're racist because I have worked on situations before where they use race as a focal point. They use preconceived notions and prejudices, and they would use a person like me to make sure that that was the slant the story goes on. I know exactly what these people are doing. And for the people out there who are saying somehow I'm in a tank for MH medical care, listen, my motivation goes much deeper than yours. This church, this Plymouth Brethren Christian Church, has destroyed untold lives and raped hundreds of little girls. And motherfuckers, you're not getting away with it. That's my motivation. Anybody who kisses the ass of these social justice warriors who want to question my motivation, that's for you. You know what? These people are guilty. And if you're helping them or giving them shelter, then you'll get rolled over by the same steamroller.
You know, I think maybe you and I should take responsibility for something here. And I'm not being funny. Maybe we buried the lead. You know, because you and I had more experience with the Plymouth Brethren than anybody. You had dealings with them before you became the whistleblower in the Richard Marsh situation, where they essentially and allegedly asked you to basically kidnap Richard Marsh. And I was interviewing, and I think I've interviewed more Plymouth Brethren cult members than anyone on the planet. I'm pretty sure. Maybe we buried the lead. Maybe when the MHCare scandal first came out, we should have opened with, wait a second, why are we spending so much time talking about this one single vendor when we could be talking about, for the last 5 years, the company, the organization that owns several companies whose members are elders and systematically cover up children? Should have we opened with that? I feel like we made a mistake. I mean, I have no problem admitting that we made that mistake, but I feel like that maybe might be one of the problems here, because I don't think anyone would say I was in the tank for the UCP if they knew I was just trying to protect kids from the pedophile organizations that were receiving fat contracts back in the day. And this is before. Listen, I don't know if I like or don't like it, because I don't really follow her policies because I don't live in Alberta, right? I know that she seems like a decent communicator. I think she seems a little bit better than Jason Kenney. I know she's pretty popular, but I don't really know her policies and what kind of impact they have on the province, because I'm just not a guy that lives there. I am also a guy without a political home. I don't consider myself left or right or anything like that. I voted for basically all parts of the spectrum, but I don't care about that. I care about two things. I care about what did the government do at the time, and what do these businesses do overall, and what kind of reputation do they have as far as the people that run them. And you cannot get worse than the Plymouth Brethren Christian Church. And the fact that everyone is quiet on them is an Epstein-ish kind of vibe, I find.
Absolutely it is. And there's a lot of things that have been hidden. The perception of the public right now, they're cheering Pete Guthrie like he's some kind of a hero. I would like to issue an invitation, Mr. Guthrie, to come on my show or James's show, all of them. In fact, I'll go on The Breakdown. I'll go on any show you want me to go on, and we can bring up all of the personal communications that he has written to vendors and other people, and we can show the people exactly who Mr. Guthrie is. The fact is, this guy is no saint. He got caught. I mean, keep in mind, for the last several years, he's been standing on the sidelines, merrily cheering along as the UCP took an axe to everything the progressive people found sacred. Yet he grew a conscience when the heat came on, or maybe it was during the intermission of the hockey game in the private box, or maybe it was after the dessert cart pulled up for him and his old lady. I don't know, but
he was still afraid
I would invite
to name
him
the
on.
vendor.
Don't trip.
He was still afraid to name the vendor. Something the other day, just to bust his balls a little bit, where he was talking. He tweeted first, and it was like he was talking about the MHCare stuff, but he never mentioned MHCare at all. So I tweeted underneath him, "Are you not mentioning the vendor because you were begging him for hockey tickets?" And then he was like, and he deflected. He's like, "Rob Anderson gave me those hockey tickets," and it's just like, you still didn't name the vendor, because I'm pretty sure that there's more to the story than just you just like receiving tickets after the fact. Like that doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah, and I wonder if he wrote Rob Anderson a thank you note too.
Yeah.
Did you, Mr. Guthrie?
The thank you note is hilarious.
Huh?
Yeah, the thank you note is hilarious.
Integrity.
But just for people trying to keep score at home, the reason why that's important is because PC Alberta Party comes out, right, after they slam a company that is clearly not in the same universe as the dark companies that are owned by the Plymouth Brethren. Because it's not just to try to slay Danielle Smith. They're trying to get a 2-for-1. They're trying to slay Danielle Smith because of the MHCare stuff, but they're also trying to get their buddies' lucrative contracts back. That Sam Marach's company had received a couple of them. They were basically competing for some of the same contracts, right? Like that's basically what it was, at least at the beginning of COVID. So it's like, so there's a motive there that has nothing to do with politics or Danielle Smith. It has to do with business and capitalism and garnering contracts from the government. And then the hilarious thing is that after that, the PC Alberta people announced that they're going to like start their new Ralph Klein 2.0 party, I guess. And then they decide that they're going to go and hang out with Take Back Alberta folk while trying to sound the alarm on separatism within the UCP. What the fuck is going on here? Like, how crazy is this?
The best part is these coconuts, Take Back Alberta, they try like hell to oust Jason Kenney, and they do it. And then these dim-witted fuckwads, now they're in bed with the Holmans of the world trying to overthrow Smith, and they're going to get back to the same position they were when they started. because once they're used as useful idiots to overthrow the Smith government and get a new Holman-approved UCP government or take back Alberta or whatever the fuck this is, once they're in, Mr. Parker's former associates, they'll be down the road again. They're going to be used again. This is how they've lost the plot. They don't understand how this works. The only one laughing at the end will be the Kennyites, the Holmanites, who have control back of the party in Alberta, because that's coming.
Yeah, no, it is coming. I think this PC Alberta thing is one of those shams. It's kind of like a party version of a leadership contest for federal conservatives, because I'm pretty infamous for saying this, but the conservative two-step is when you run for leader of the Conservative Party of Canada and you throw roses to as far right as you can. Yay, abortion.
Yep.
Boo immigrants, like that kind of stuff, right? And then when whoever wins, when the general happens, they just creep their way back towards the center, and no, we're moderate. They're doing that at a party level now. It's not the leadership level. Now they're throwing roses to build a new party, which is sort of an old party, but they're calling it a new party. And they're basically trying to take back Alberta people and be like, listen, we got your back. We got you. Separatists are bad. Hey, come here, separatists. We got you. We got you. And people in the public are just like, I guess, you know, enough of the people left of center who might be tired of Naheed Nenshi or whatever are, you know, I guess they think that they're going to swallow up that swath of voters, but I don't work. You know, I don't think that like this two-step at a party level is very bizarre. I've never seen anything like it. They want to be known as a big tent, right, David? But I don't think that they're going to be a very big tent.
No, what they are is these are predators. This is all about feathering their own nest and making money. These aren't conservatives. I'm a conservative. Okay, I'm a conservative by nature with progressive values, but I'm conservative, and I'm fucking disgusted by the shit, and that's what it is, shit passing itself off as true conservatives in Alberta politics. And I'm sick of the mainstream coverage of it, the people who say they have the moral high ground. So I'm going to ask out front, I would like Nate Pike and Kerry Tate to be a guest on James' show, and I would like them to go over the statement of claim Athana Mentalopoulos wrote against the government in her lawsuit. And I would like them to, that's the one that Nate has been waving around, her affidavit. I would like those two to be gone over with them. And then I would like to produce the latest statement of defense Athana has filed in connection to being sued by Marshall Smith. You will see that one statement almost completely contradicts the prior statements.
Yeah,
and I would like them to explain calmly to myself, but more importantly, to their viewers and their readers, I would like them to explain why they have not been reporting on these new facts. Why? In the interest of transparency, why are you not presenting the alternative story? I think it's version 3 now, that Athana has given. At that point, we need to question her credibility. And if her credibility is shit, then what are we talking about here?
And I'd like to also extend two redundant invites. One to Kerry Tate, who was really gung-ho and answering my texts at the beginning when I told her I had documents. But when I said I wouldn't give them to her and invite her on the show, she blacked out communication. And when I told her, and I text her every once in a while to let her know what I'm going to be talking about, and she never answers. But she's always got an open invite to come on the show. I'm not going to sandbag her. She's not here to defend herself, so I'll just say what I want, and that's just the way it is. But whenever I interview people, I'm very respectful. I would also like to re-extend an invite to Mark McKinnon and ask either one of them, when are they going to go to Australia to dig up stuff on the Plymouth Brethren Christian Church companies by interviewing Bruce Hale and asking him if he really does get business advice from Jesus, which is what he literally tells his followers that he does. Oh, I talked to Jesus last night and he says we need to hold for now. Business is going to be strong. Like he teaches like this, right? It is fucking insane. Like you'll go to Lebanon to ask about a guy's military, his father's military record before he was even born, but you won't take the worst heinous cult in this country, I think, at least one of them, and ask their business people why, if they think it's neat that their leader, their dear leader, claims to have a direct line to Jesus Christ himself. This is fucking crazy.
You know why they won't, James? It's very simple. It's very simple why they won't. The entire conservative hierarchy in Canada. Go back and look at some of the stories that you did, some of the stories that I did. Stephen Harper was sworn in on a fucking Plymouth Brethren Bible. Well, the entire brass sat in the front row, the Plymouth Brethren brass, Mr. Brad Mitchell and several other prominent Plymouth Brethren members of the community were right there. The reason they won't is because the conservative movement in this country carries the water for these individuals, because it was their money that put Mr. Harper in power.
Yeah.
It was their money and power that underwrites campaigns. And it's their money that makes the world go round in that circle, which is why the Kerry Tates of the world and the Globe does not report on. And you know what? It's also why the right-wing media, such as the Western Standard, Canada Proud, and these other publications, have not uttered one fucking word about this controversy. You want to know why? Because the majority of their best customers and their best funders happen to be intimately tied with these other people that we're speaking about.
Yeah.
And it's a hell of a lot easier to blame a Lebanese Canadian.
Yeah. I think let's end it there, because
come on the show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, they have an open invite to come anytime they want. We're having connection issues, but we've done, I think we've
Well, wait, I'll say one more thing, James. I'll say one more thing.
Go ahead.
I'll say one more thing. You said you don't want to sandbag Kerry. And in the interest of transparency, if you do choose to come on the show, I'm not going to sandbag you. I'm going to tell you flat out. We're going to go.
I'm not going to let you on the show if Kerry comes on. Are you kidding?
No, but if you come on my show, Kerry, I will.
Yeah.
And Nate, we will go over certain text messages that were sent by people to you. We will go over emails. How I came about these little goodies? Well, let's just say I acquired them.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go over them. And I would prefer if you would appear live with me. I will give you a real-time opportunity to explain yourself.
And I would do the same. And I would do the same. And I know the reporters are really touchy about their reporting, but I would just love to know why reporters like Mark McKinnon and Tom and Kerry Tate and all these people are just interviewing so many goddamn people. They haven't one relative or friend of a Plymouth Brethren Christian cult member, but they'll go and try to interview 200 people from a community that shares a man's ethnicity and ask questions that have nothing to do with the actual story that's taking place. It's just so bizarre to me. But in any event, David Wallace from the Political Dark Art Show, thanks very much for joining us today, man. I really appreciate it.
Tally ho.
Tally ho. All right. I'm in a hotel in Ottawa right now, by the way. It was a horrible day. I had to buy a new laptop because I had tech issues. I left my phone in an Uber. And I had one of those weird brain things where I didn't know what to do. I was like, do I contact Uber? And I was like, oh my God, I was putting my head in my hands. And some girl comes up to me and she runs me back. She's like, just call your fucking phone. And I was like, all right. So I called my phone, got the phone back. And it's hot as hell out there. But I meant what I said. I think that we buried the lead. I think that if we focused on the fact that these horrible these companies that are run by this heinous religious theocratic extremist abusive cult had no ink spilt on it, while this one vendor has had gallons spilt, and the most bizarre overextended reporting that I think I've ever seen for such for this type of story. I think that from now on, I'm going to go back to my sweet spot and start opening with the Plymouth Brethren stuff and start reverse engineering this scandal, because I don't really listen. I don't know if I share David's take on Nathan Pike. I have no idea if he's a good guy or not. He seems like a decent person and everything. And I don't care what he says. I feel like he's clearly motivated by the fact that he literally works for AHS. So why would he, speak out against them, or why would he put the focus on something that he considers to be a step in the direction of partially, publicly or public healthcare or whatever, even though it's still publicly funded. But there's got to be something else at play here, because why haven't they talked about these other companies? It's, I know they care about children. So anyways, they're vacuuming the hallway beside my hotel room now, so I'm going to go. But we will continue covering the story. We have a lot more in the tank. And until then, we will see you next time on
Blackmore. 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 Blackmore.